going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Scott here and welcome back to Fudge Moppet. Today I'm going to be taking you through the best way to start an archery character in Skyrim. For those of you who are new to Skyrim, this will definitely assist you in deciding whether you want to play an archery character in the game. And even if you're a Skyrim veteran like us, it will ensure that you start your archery playthrough with a huge advantage, with strategies you may have forgotten or never previously considered. We've got more starter guides coming for other types of builds just in time before the release of Special Edition, so be sure to check out those too to get a feel for what you want to play. On that note, Bethesda gave us early access to this copy of Special Edition, so if you're wondering how we have it, that's how. Also keep in mind that we've made heaps of full-on Skyrim builds, and we will be doing more upon Special Edition's release. We actually have over 100 Skyrim builds, so you can take one of these and play it while applying the advice in this video to get the best start possible for your character. In this guide, we'll go over race choices, skills, strategies, awesome gear, and more. There's plenty to cover. So firstly, let's start with what race you're going to play. You can't get more starter guide than that. It's the first decision you make, and if you want the most optimized archery character, it's fun to go with a wood elf. The reason for this is you'll start with a plus 10 bonus to your archery skill, and this means that you'll come straight out of the gates with stronger archery and quicker access to the useful archery perks you'll be getting. As a wood elf, you'll also get plus 5 to the alchemy, light armor, and sneak skills. These are often used by archery characters, as you can use alchemy to make potions to increase your archery and poisons to make your arrows more deadly. Sneak is also great for an archery character who wants to be an assassin. Most archery characters use stealth, so this is pretty helpful. However, as many of you know, we at Fudge Moppet usually prioritize role-playing over stats. You wouldn't think an orc would make a very good archer, but let me explain the logic. Orcs have a unique racial power called Berserker Rage, which can be used once a day and it lasts 60 seconds. While using Berserker Rage, you take half damage from enemies and deal twice as much to them. It only affects physical damage, so not spells, but it does affect your bow. This means you can activate Berserker Rage before letting fly a supercharged arrow of death from afar, killing your enemies with incredible force. If you choose to use stealth and get perks to increase bow damage sneak attack multipliers, this can be used to one-shot kill most things. They also have plus 10 to heavy armor, plus 5 to smithing, and plus 5 to enchanting, which makes them great as combat archers. Enchanting and smithing can both be used to increase your bow damage. Overall, using Berserker Rage as an orc really makes you just like a tank zooming into battle, clad in armor, blasting apart targets from a range. You can figure out cool reasons to use other races, or like I said, just use them because you want to. In the long term, it doesn't really change much, but it helps at the start, which is what this is all about. As you can see, there's also two main ways to play an archer. One is the stealthy route, and one takes the head-on approach. That said, they're not really that different in terms of setup. I'll elaborate on this when necessary. Let's look at stat allocation as you begin the game. As far as the basic archer goes, you won't need to put any stat allocation into Magicka at all. You'll want a good amount of health and stamina though. Health is obviously used to keep you alive, and stamina will make you able to zoom in with your bow and slow time for longer, which is one of the perks we will talk about soon. Stamina is also used to sprint to create distance between you and your enemies if you've been compromised, and it's also used to roll in sneak mode. What I recommend for any archer character at the start of the game is actually to spec into health a bit more. You don't have to, but it helps. You won't have all the perks to zoom in and slow time at the very start of the game, and you also won't be able to sneak well enough to never be compromised. Essentially, you'll be taking damage at times, so health is going to help. Spec into health for the first few levels and then start adding in stamina. If you're playing a more stealthy character, we'd recommend half health, half stamina. You might think stamina is a good idea, but you seriously don't need it that much. That said, if you want to make a character who plays the game permanently slowing time, then go for 60% stamina and 40% health, or 100% stamina if you're feeling crazy. As for the combat archer, we recommend the exact same thing, reason being you don't need more than 50% of your allocation going into health because you'll be wearing solid armor to protect you. Again, if you'd prefer going 60% health and 40% stamina, you can, but 50-50 tends to work well for both styles for different reasons. For stealth characters, you won't get hit that much, but you also don't need unnecessary amounts of stamina. For combat archers, you simply will take enough without more than 50% health, and the 50% stamina will be very useful in battle for maneuverability and accuracy. If you're playing any character using magic, things will be different and you may have to do an even split of all the stats. This would make sense if you want illusion magic for invisibility or conjuration magic to distract your opponents. If you want to use the bound bow as your only spell and weapon, which is really cool, you can actually cast the spell at level 4, or if you're a high elf who start with plus 50 magicka, you can cast it on level 1. We made a guide on how to do this and it can be found linked in the description below. We also have a guide linked in the description description about how to get an ebony bow at level 1, so if you really want true power and don't want to use magic, you can go for that one. That said, the ebony bow method is sort of an exploit, so you might want to wait till you're a higher level instead. Both the ebony bow and the bound bow are super powerful compared to anything else you'd be using early on. Speaking of which, at level 10 you can join the Dawnguard, and the crossbow you can get from them is also strong. It has a base damage of 19, which is the same base damage as a Daedric bow. Now I want to tell you a great way to level your archery at the start of the game. When you leave Helgen and go to Riverwood, there's a Wood Elf archer there called Faendal. Do his very quick quest and get him as a companion. He can then follow you around and fight for you using his bow, but even more importantly, he is an adept archery trainer. This means you can pay him to train your archery skill up, eventually reaching an archery level of 50. It's not exactly cheap, but we still recommend doing it. Again, for those who choose to do so, you can actually exploit this by taking your money back from his inventory and repeating your training over and over. We've tested this in our copy of Special Edition, and it currently works. Eventually, you will have to level up your character using other skills though, as you can only increase your archery 5 times per level using training. Once you end up with archery at level 50 through doing quests and spending money on training, or even before that, you can head south of Falkreath to this location here, known as Angie's Camp. Here you will meet Angie, who is actually very skillful with a bow. She will offer to train you here for free in a mini quest called Composure, Speed and Precision. This will involve shooting practice targets with practice arrows and will increase your archery by 6 levels once you complete it all. If you're keen to advance your archery skill quickly, this is a great quest to do so. The only thing is that technically you're better off waiting till your archery is level 94, and then you can increase it to 100 by using this quest, even though the final levels of archery are otherwise the hardest to achieve. One unique application of the practice arrows is actually coating them in frenzy poisons and shooting enemies with it, knowing that they probably won't die as the arrow's damage is 0. Your bow damage is still involved though. At Angie's Camp, you'll also find an archery skill book on this table which you can read to improve your archery by another level. If you're looking for other trainers to actually pay for lessons, Aela from the Companions Guild is an expert trainer, and Nirowyn from the Thieves Guild and Serene Gerard from the Dawnguard faction are both master trainers, but can only train you to level 90. You can access Serene's training after completing the quest A New Order in the Dawnguard DLC. As mentioned earlier, perks will also be super important for your archery character. Archery is unique compared to other skills though, in my opinion, because I actually think that all the perks are good. There are some perk trees where I recommend avoiding perks and getting others, but with archery, if you're an archery character, you should seriously get them all. You'll want to prioritize getting ranks of the Overdraw perk early on, and when your archery reaches 30, you'll want to get the Eagle Eye perk so you can zoom in with your bow. At level 30, you can also pick up the rank of Critical Shot, which increases critical hit chance. Get all these ranks when you can. When you get archery to 40, you can get the first rank of Steady Hand, which is the perk that slows time when you zoom in with your bow. Again, get all the ranks when you can. There is an awesome perk at 50 archery called Power Shot, which makes your attacks stagger all but the largest of opponents 50% of the time. This is really useful for keeping distance between you and your enemies. At this level, you can get Hunter's Discipline, which is arguably the least useful perk, but it lets you recover twice as many arrows from dead bodies, which is obviously still worth it. Same thing goes for Ranger perk at level 6, which lets you move faster with your bow drawn. This is better for a combat archer compared to a full stealth archer, but it's still great for both. At level 70, you can get the Quick Shot perk to draw your bow 30% faster, and only once you reach level 100 archery can you get the Bullseye perk. This gives you a 15% chance of paralyzing your target, which is also super worth it. Prioritize your archery perks, but obviously you'll want to be getting sneak perks if you're going into stealth, and also perks to smith the metals you want, and enchanting perks to increase the power of your archery-based enchantments, if you choose to use enchanting. Smithing is seriously powerful, so don't underestimate it. Eventually you can make your own powerful bow like Daedric or Dragonbone, and then smith it up to do way more damage. The sneak perk you'll want for a stealth archer is called Deadly Aim. This makes sneak attacks with bows do 3 times as much damage. If you want to use poisons to increase your damage, you'll need to invest in alchemy perks for the best results too. You can use whatever poisons you want, but a great idea is making potions that fortify archery. Ingredients which have this effect are canis root, elf's ear, juniper berries, and spider eggs. Coming back to enchanting your gear, you can put fortify archery enchantments on jewelry, handgear, and headgear. This gives you 4 slots to use. To get the fortify Archery enchantment, you'll need to find something with the Fortify Archery effect on it and disenchant it. To do this, you can either wait until you find random loot with it, or you can use the Dawnstar chest exploit that has lots of enchanted items in it, but that's definitely not something for every player. One very legit way is to kill Froakie at Froakie's shack. At this location you can kill him and take his ring, but there's two things to consider with this. First, he has a quest you probably want to do first, but secondly, I don't think it's a very good thing to do unless you're role-playing an evil character. Luckily, a lot of archers make great assassins in the Dark Brotherhood, so if that's you, then go for it. That said, if you're in the Dark Brotherhood, you can easily gain access to the Shrouded Cowl, which you can't disenchant, but it comes with a Fortify Archery enchantment on it, which you can use. A final skill you may want to use is Light Armor or Heavy Armor, depending on what you're going for. If you're going for stealth, I recommend Light Armor, but if you just want to be a juggernaut with ranged precision attacks, then you can go with Heavy Armor. Get perks which apply to what you decide to use. The final thing I want to let you guys know about in this guide is what Standing Stone to use. So at the start of the game, you can head straight out of Helgen and go to the Guardian Stones. They're located right here, and you'll want to choose the Thief Stone. While it would seem like archery should be affected by the Warrior Stone, it's actually affected by the Thief Stone, which also affects Sneak, Light Armor, and Alchemy as an extra advantage. It levels these skills 20% faster, as well as Pickpocket, Lockpicking, and Speech. If you're playing a character with more varied skills, however, you might want to go with the Lover Stone, which you can find here, east of Markarth. This stone levels all of your skills 15% faster. Another neat option, the Steed Stone, is located here, northwest of Solitude. This stone gives you a bonus 100 extra carrying capacity and also gives you no movement penalty from armor. Armor also has 0 weight when equipped. Besides all the extra room to carry loot in, this makes you much more maneuverable, which as we know is great for an archer, so you can avoid damage and keep distance between you and your enemies. Finally, if you're going to use a bound bow early on, you'll want the Atronach Stone to increase your magicka by 50 points. It also decreases your magicka regen by 50%, but very powerfully, it gives you 50% spell absorption. This means there's a 50% chance you'll absorb all of an enemy's spell, negating its damage and increasing your own magicka. This makes it very beast for almost every character build in the entire game for an endgame scenario, as it's just very powerful due to the protection granted by the spell absorption. You can find the Atronach Stone here in between Windhelm and Riften. Subscribe to Fudge Muppet for more starter builds like this one. We've got heaps of knowledge and also heaps of full-on builds with deep backstories, amazing aesthetics, and powerful mechanics coming too, so stay tuned to get those. Thanks so much for watching this video. It means a lot to us that you've watched it this far and care about what we're doing here at Fudge Muppet. Social media links are in the description, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.